There we go. All righty. I just want to see about, it says, oh, hi, Christine. Hi, Kate. How are you? I am going to make sure that you can see my lovely faces. My lovely faces. My lovely face. How are you? Good day, good day, good day, good day. It is day 3 of our Get Clients Accelerator Challenge. And I am very, very, very excited that you are here. And whether you're here live or you're going to be coming to us in the replay, we so appreciate it. So I am just going to hold on a minute. We've got a number of people coming in. I want to make sure everybody is good. Um, okay, I'm going to, okay, great. Um, and just to kind of minimize, I just made sure that everyone's videos and audios were muted just in case we, of background noise and all that kind of good stuff. But at the same time, please be sure that you use the chat room. And if you have anything that you need to discuss and share with me, please do. Okay. Because today's conversation is really important. It's where I find most of my clients just kind of put on the brakes. And when I all of a sudden get a sense that they're not moving forward and they're not doing what they say they want to be doing, from a reaching out and securing enrollment calls, or what you might call a discovery call, a strategy call, a sales call. It's all the same thing. It is a sales call, no matter what you call it. And the objective of it is to secure a client. So today is a great way to kind of not end, but a great place to have you really looking at, now that you understand what your big problem is. And if you haven't put that out in our Shift to Riches Today page, please go ahead and do so. Because like I had mentioned, Tuesday and Wednesday, sharing what your big problem is not only can you get complimentary coaching from me, and I am so honored all the time to be able to do that. At the same time, you can get feedback from other people within the group. And you can also be, kind of testing whether or not your big problem is something that other people, are dealing with, and that they'd be interested in talking to you more about. All right. So Tuesday's call to action was to, and discussion was all around, what is that number one big problem that you are solving? Okay. And many people, I'm just going to say it briefly, just as a recap. Many people would think, oh, well, I'm dealing with anxiety. That is what the problem that I'm helping my clients with. But just like the example that I gave you, that I think is really profound, and it makes understanding what it means about what your true big problem is, was this example that I had shared with you. And that is, you're thinking that are a coach to help people with anxiety, and yet everyone deals with anxiety. So how do we niche that down? And so I shared with you about a fellow coach, and he recognized that his anxiety, because remember, we're the best, client for our businesses. We're the ideal client. So he, kind of looked at it and he was like, okay, so what are my people, or I'm sorry, what have I dealt with when it came to anxiety, and what was the impact on my life, and what was the problem I was having that I was willing to, put a great deal of investment in. And he discovered it was stuttering. So as a result of anxiety, he was a stutterer. Well, he overcame it with a lot of work, a lot of investment, okay? Because that's how important it was for him to solve this problem. That then he switched his whole business model to really, recognizing that anxiety is just too broad, too general. And he was like, well, wait a minute, I know how to solve stuttering, and which is anxiety, caused by anxiety. So all of a sudden he becomes like the stuttering coach and earning 7 figures. So he all of a sudden took a very small, revenue generating business and actually just allowed it to explode. So that's what I want you to do, is get down to the real core big problem. And then yesterday we talked about what it takes to to create magnetic messaging that will attract your perfect client. And so, and we talked about a whole bunch of stuff. So, if you haven't gotten a chance to watch the replay or you weren't here live yesterday, take a look at the recaps that I've been sending you for the link to yesterday's session. If for any reason you did not get it, then again, be sure to reach out and I'll make sure that you do get it. Okay. I want to share, let me see what I have here. I want to share the worksheet, which I just did for today's session, because we have a lot to go over. So does anybody, hi, Angela, nice to see you. And Chris and Kate are all kind of saying hello to each other. That's fabulous. So if you if you have questions, post them right here regarding the last couple of days. And then, of course, as we get into this conversation, be sure to be sharing those as well in the chat room. Okay. And I'll make sure that I try to get to as many of them as possible. Now, I know many of you, when it comes to, like I said, when it comes to sales calls, enrollment calls, all of a sudden, you just start having anxiety. You start getting stressed out. And you know why? Because the challenges that you might be facing, and if you have your worksheet, you can follow along. The challenges you might be facing is just simply you've never sold before. And when I say before, I'm even talking about you might be in business a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. I have worked with clients over the last 12, and my longest senior, I will call it, seasoned client was 18 years. And he and his team still did not master the sales process. Even after all those years, he leaned on referrals for the bulk. I mean, I would say he had 5 major clients. It was a manufacturer of retail displays, and he had 5 core clients all those years. And then, but found when he hired me, he found that his client base was depleting and being taken over by the major competitors. So he hired me, one from a leadership and a coach for him, but then as at the same time a consultant from a sales and marketing perspective. So I've been doing this a long time, and I also was predominantly in pre-sales in my corporate career. So I have found that a lot of people they've never sold before, and they just don't know how. Okay, so be okay with that. That's why you're here. Okay, so be okay with that. Others just deal with the fact that they don't want to be perceived as a used car salesman. I mean, that's the first thing people will say when it comes to, okay, what is it about sales that you don't like? Well, I don't want to be looked at as a sleazy car salesman. And the only thing I could say to that is you're only going to look like a sleazy car salesman if you're a sleazy car salesman. So, that's not what sales is about anymore. And it hasn't been for a while, but at the same time, it's never going to go back to that discipline, because it was. I mean, there was decades where that sales model was taught and coached. That's just not the way that's not the way individuals, that's not the way you want to be sold to. All right. Now you can still see them out there. You can still see them out there, even in the coaching, consulting, service provider industries. But it's not going to make you successful. It might money wise, but it won't heart wise. Okay. So, but it is a challenge that you have, is feeling as if you're going to be a used car salesman. Other people just feel like, well, I don't feel comfortable asking. It's like the big ask. I just, every time I get to that point of the conversation, I kind of start fumbling and I start mumbling and I start losing my words and all of that. And therefore, sales is a scary, scary thing. And then lastly, I would say that the majority of the people, the challenge that they're having is that they don't want rejection. And I can completely understand that. Okay. And I had that issue as a salesperson when I was in that pre-sale role I mentioned. I also had it from a relationship perspective, but we don't need to get into that right now. But, so I get the fear of rejection, but the whole purpose for this particular discussion today is all of those challenges are very easily rectified. And in a little bit, we're going to get into the formula that I have found to really, and the method that I have found to really help people kind of learn to love sales and learn to recognize that sales is just about serving people and to be about giving what it is that to others, because why keep it to yourself? Other people can use your tips, your strategies, your frameworks, your methodologies, your support, your compassion, your caring. And why keep it to yourself? And so that's what I wanted to challenge you to kind of shift your mindset when it comes to sales, is that it's all about serving others. And I'll just share a really quick story in regards to what really kind of bonked me over the head about, this was like 2010 or 2011. I was writing my book at Shedding the Corporate Bitch. And I decided to take my sister, go to a Vegas conference for a couple of days that was all around how to market and how to position your book, and then how to turn that book into whatever business that you want. And predominantly it was all around coaching and consulting. And so I told my sister, as I was flying her out from Philly and I was coming from Atlanta, I said to her, just know this is going to be a boondoggle. She's like, what do you mean? What's a boondoggle? I'm like, well, it's a day and a half and there's about 30, 35 speakers, which makes it a boondoggle, which means that, each speaker might have 20 minutes to kind of actually teach you something. But the real focus of that 20 minutes was to present, and that's going to be a key word that I want you to kind of put in your head. I want you to put in your head service and presenting. They're going to present what it is that they have to offer of their expertise, their knowledge, their experience, their do's and don'ts. And therefore, you have an opportunity to invest in that offering. Okay. So, service and present. But so the first day, my sister thought I was absolutely losing my mind. The first day, I sat there and say the stage was there. I sat there like this and I just listened. And she's like, what are you doing? Because I was sitting on the end and she's like to my right. And she's like, what are you doing? Look at the speaker. I'm like, no, I don't want to look at the speaker. I want to purely listen to the flow of their presentation, their conversation that they would have not only on stage, but with their potential client, of which then they're going to present their offer and make the ask, which is, okay, would you like to do business with me? This is how much it's going to cost. This is how we do it. And I realized that of this 30 speakers, there was a formula. There was a formula to that. Okay. And I'll call it, it's not a formula storytelling. How about if we call it a formula to presenting your offer storytelling? And there was a point in time where they introed themselves very quickly. They told a story. They made you laugh or cry. They gave you a tip. They come back to make you laugh or cry. And then they ask. And they can get this all done in like a 15, 20-minute conversation. Now, that's not an enrollment call. And we'll, discuss that in a second. The second day, I was positioned like this. And I was looking at the back of the room. And my sister's like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm paying attention to once they do their presentation, and depending upon how powerful it was and what tips they provided, and then their ask, I wanted to watch the amount of feet that went to the back of the room and purchased. And I would say that the Mark Hansen was the largest. And I think, he probably, based on his product he was offering, he made $150,000 out of that. He probably had a half hour out of that half hour. But everyone else, say 27, 28 of the rest of those speakers, averaged $75,000 in that one 20-minute presentation. Okay. Now, what does that mean for you? Because we're not necessarily talking about getting up in, in front of a room. It just simply means there are these formulas, these methods, these frameworks that you could be using to recognize that all you're doing is serving. All you're doing is, kind of um, offering what it is that you know and how you can help someone else to somebody else. Okay. And then all you're doing when it comes to your enrollment call is you're presenting what it is and how it is you can help somebody solve the problem that they have. And the one thing out of that day and a half, 2 days that kind of hit me over the head is one of the speakers said, you're being very selfish if you're not out there offering you what it is that you know and what it is that you can do for somebody else. You're being awfully selfish. Other people need what it is that you have. And so, stop hiding from thinking that it's, sales in a sleazy car salesman type of way, and get out there and serve. And right then and there, and like I said, it was 2010, 2011, my whole, mind just got shifted. My heart got shifted too, because here I was thinking that it was used cars man. Oh, I didn't want, I don't want rejection. I don't want to come off as if I'm push, 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 push. And the minute that person, and I don't remember who it was, I wish I did, because I tell this story a lot, but the moment that person said, you're doing a disservice to other people if you're not offering what it is that you have that will solve a problem that they have, you're doing a disservice and you're being selfish. So I would just leave you in, kind of considering that, okay? Because whether you call it an enrollment call, a strategy call, a discovery call, or a sales call, they're all the same thing. And they have two purposes, okay? They have the purpose of you understanding and you being a really good investigator and actually a really good interviewer to really understand the goals, the dreams, the desires, needs, and wants, the pains, the joys, the challenges that that the individual is having in their life. So this, enrollment call time period is for you to really just drill into and get as much from that other party as you can to really understand, is this something, is this problem, because they all will have a big problem, and you want to drill into what they think is their problem. You want to drill into it to get to the real problem. But the objective of that enrollment call is to just merely learn about how it is you can help them with what it is that you have. All right. So I mean, that's like sitting across the table from somebody and really just wanting to get to know them. And it's just a good bit deeper, because you're really looking to see how you can help them. Okay. And then the other one is to serve them. All right. The second, reason for these calls, or purpose for these calls, is for you to serve them. But there's a huge caveat in what I'm saying there. These calls are not coaching calls. So they're not for you to all of a sudden go into coach mode and provide tips and strategies and know-how and all that kind of stuff. You have to really, and I'm one of those, you have to really resist turning it into a coaching call. It is a, purely a, what many people will call a discovery call, of which then the second purpose is for you to serve them by presenting to them how you can help them. Okay. So if there's anywhere, the 80-20 rule also fits, it's here. You want to do 80% of, research, digging, and 80% they should be talking. 20% is then when, you go into your presenting your offer type of mode, once you really understand what it is and how it is you can help them. Okay. So two purposes: learn about them and then serve them by presenting them what it is that you have. You can look at that as that is the ask. Well, let me tell you about my Discover You Immersion program. It does blah, 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 blah. And based on what you're telling me, I definitely think that you would, get great value from both individual, one-on-one, and group, yada, 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 yada. So you just ask questions and learn, and then you present how it is that you can help them. Okay. But it's not a coaching call, and we'll talk about that as we go as well. Okay. So some do's and don'ts. I'm just going to be a little distracted here for just a second because I did notice my cord came out and I don't want to. Could you imagine? And I know you guys are totally okay with us being casual. Okay, so some do's and don'ts when it comes to your enrollment call. So again, you can take your handout and follow along. Um, you want to definitely ask a lot of questions. Now, we're not getting into all of that. I'm not getting into necessarily, the structure of all the questions you could be asking in an enrollment call and how you should be asking them, and in what order you need to ask them in order to really lead you through to where you're finally going to serve them by presenting your offer. And you can certainly reach out and schedule a breakthrough coaching call with me, and we can determine if it's a good fit for you to come into my coaching programs, one-on-one and very small group coaching programs, where we would get into, and I would actually give you, way beyond what you've received the last few days, but you wouldn't only get these worksheets, you'd get the flow, you get the method, you get all the questionnaire, there's a great deal of content that goes along with everything we've been talking about these last 3 days. So you want to ask a lot of questions, and I'm going to help you through the 5 P's of an enrollment call a little bit more when it comes to that. Okay. You don't want to be doing a lot of talking. Okay. Ask the question, shush up, listen, and then, either all you need to do is really hear that and document it, or you need to drill into it to get further and further understanding of what it is that they're dealing with. Okay. Ask a lot of questions. Don't do a lot of talking. Really work on discovering their story. Like, really understand who they are, because one big thing, especially new entrepreneurs, but I'm not going to consider any of you new. All right. Even if you did just start, I'd rather you not consider yourself new. And you'll notice that in my coaching, I'll never hand hold you to the point where you're, this new person that needs to be stroked. And, I want you to be, seeing yourself as a seasoned, business owner, entrepreneur, and you just need some polish maybe. Okay. So you want to learn about their story. You want to get into really kind of getting to the point of what brought them to this state of being that they're reaching out to you for a possible solution to what they're dealing with. Okay. So really just, get inquisitive and curious about the other person and get into their story. This isn't a time for you to talk about yours. Okay. It's not. There'll be some time, a little bit of time. There might have been time at the introduction. We'll talk about that in a second, but, and then at the end, but yet this isn't the time to spend any more than like 2 minutes, 3 minutes on your story. They obviously know enough about you where they got on a call. Okay. You want to focus this time on learning about them. All right. Again, you definitely want to serve them, and you don't want to sell to them. So until there's no like interjecting, even during that first, and I'll break down the number of minutes, but during that first section, you never even have to say anything about, oh, well, that's what my program will help you with, or that's what, my product will do for you. You don't need to do any selling until you get toward the end, when you're actually going to serve them by presenting them your offer. All right. Again, that's a key to the structure of an enrollment call, which we won't have time for today. And then I wanted to say with the story, discovering their story. This is your qualifying call of them as a client, as much as it is them qualifying you. Because I believe that not all money is good money. So even if you are new, and that's where I was going with that, even if you are a new business owner, or you've been in business for a while and you're always struggling to get clients on board and get money in the bank, don't be desperate to take just anybody. Trust me when I say not all money's good money. So you want to use these enrollment calls as qualifiers. Is this person a good fit for me? Am I a good fit for them? Is this going to be, easy? It could be challenging, but a good challenge. Or is this going to be just torture and I'm going to be pulling teeth trying to get this person engaged? This is your time to really qualify that. So when you go to, handle one of the P's we're going to talk about, you really need to be thinking through, what is it I want to learn about this person so I can make sure it's a good fit for me? Okay. And if I was talking to a prospect, like from a coach perspective, I would tell them, make sure you're qualifying this coach in such a way that you're asking all kinds of questions to really learn about their style. So that's that next point of do, is to really, learn about their style, and you're demonstrating your style. So I don't change, who I am, whether I'm training you here and providing coaching here, or if I'm on a enrollment call. So someone can get a really good idea as to whether or not my style fits with them. And trust me when I say, there are many people that my style doesn't fit with. And then there's many people that it does. So you want to ensure that that person is a good fit for you. But you also want to demonstrate your style to them as part of that way for them to qualify you and you qualify them. Because if all of a sudden they're quiet, or they're not really engaging with you, or they are, but then they're being defensive, or they're being, you can use all of that to say, is this person a good fit for me? Okay. Again, you don't want to be on this call solving problems. So as much as you're demonstrating your style, you're not demonstrating your coaching. Well, I take that back. You're demonstrating your coaching, but not in the way that you're solving their problems. You're demonstrating your coaching, consulting, service provider skill and expertise through the questions you're asking, the comprehending and remembering, and maybe you're repeating to them to ensure that they know that they're being heard and that you're understanding them. So there's a lot of ways where you can demonstrate your style, demonstrate your coaching ability, demonstrate your skill and expertise without, solving their problem, because solving their problem is what it is that you're about to offer them. Okay. And then show them like what you know. And that can be in later in the conversation, that's going to be through case studies. And it's not about you. It's about, oh, well, Joanne came to me. And when she came to me, she was really dealing with, communication issues. She really wasn't connecting with people. She was, having a really difficult time conveying what she really means, so forth and so on. And so what we did was blank, 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 blank. And now today she's very confident, and she actually even raises her hand and offers to make presentations and to lead meetings that she would never have done before. So through your case studies, through your clients, you could be definitely letting them know what you do and how you do it. You're just not necessarily coaching them and demonstrating it through you coaching them. Okay. And then of course, this is going to sound horrible. So you want to show them what you know, but you don't want to, not only solve the problems, but you don't want to provide or give. Now, I know that sounds very selfish, but just lump it under, you don't want to turn it into a coaching call. Because I have had situations myself, let alone my clients have had, where they had coached their whole enrollment call. And then the person was like, oh, well, that's awesome. And that's exactly what I need to do. And thank you very much. And there's no need for me to have to do anything else. And they coached themselves right out of an opportunity to secure a client. Have you ever done that? Anybody ever done that? I've done it because I'm always wanting to help and solve problems for people. And I do it. So I'm a little nervous now that I did some settings over the last couple of days to my Zoom. Can someone just put in the chat that you're there? Um, although Chris did just reply, not really. Um, we are here, good, because it doesn't matter. I'm just glad you are. And so does that make sense? The do's and the don'ts. And were you able to capture them all? And absolutely, yes, it's great. All right. Fantastic. Okay. Now, so there's some things I want you to keep in mind. All right. So you have a section in your worksheet around keeping in mind. You're having this call. Okay. Maybe they reached out to you. Maybe you reached out to them, but you're having this call because you're pretty certain they have a pain or a problem or a need, desire, and want that you can help them with. So when it comes to what is challenging you to hold these enrollment calls or even schedule these enrollment calls, think about that. Is they're already warm. The minute that they, put their name in your Calendly, they're already warm. So there's no need to be all worked up about it and to be afraid that they're going to reject you. Now, could they say no? Absolutely, they could say no. However, no is not no. It's simply not right now. It's not the right time. Now that, have I ever had somebody that was just like, yeah, you are not going to be you're not going to be my partner in anything. Absolutely. But you know what? One, those are very, very, very rare. And two, oh, well, you move on to the next person. All right. So, ladies, we've always heard, oh, there's more, fish in the sea. You know what? There are. There's more fish in the sea. There's more frogs to kiss. There's more prospective clients out there. So, pile up the no's. Because in all of that, there's going to be yeses. So pile up the no's and be okay with rejection because you have a solution to someone's problem, pain, desire, need, or want. And you just need to find those right people. And sometimes I want you to just, know that sometimes you get somebody on a call and they're not just not a good fit, but you can't solve their problem. And that's okay too. So then you just refer them somewhere. Okay. The other thing I want to kind of get across, and I mentioned it briefly earlier, is you don't want to be desperate or anxious. What I would ask you to do, and why I emphasize the fact that you're, selling is serving. And I emphasize that because just like the scent of a dog who can pick up when somebody's not a good person. Babies do it too. They could just tell that somebody's not a good person. People can smell your desperation, your anxiety. And if all of a sudden you do get on one of these calls and your only objective is to get that client, well, you're not going to get the client. I can just tell you right now. So you need to put aside that you have a goal of getting that client and closing that sale and putting money in the bank. Because as long as you're serving, you're going to. May not be that person, but it's going to be somebody. So what you just need to do is put aside any, especially if it's a desperate, anxious, intense need, of getting the sale. You just need to put that aside because these calls are you to serve this other person and figure out what it is they're dealing with so you can help them. Okay. I mentioned this at the very beginning, but the third, if you're following along with the keep in mind, is really around the fact that you're doing a disservice by not getting out there and finding those people you can get on enrollment calls and helping to solve their problem. You're doing a disservice to them and you're doing a disservice to yourself. every single one of us have talent and the skill and the capability to help and get money for what it is that we are helping with from people. Because think about it, people want their problems solved. People want their needs fulfilled, their desires realized, their wants taken care of, and they're willing to pay for it. It's also why we went through that exercise with the big problem, for you to really think about, what have you invested in? What would you pay to solve the problem that you've identified that you're going to help somebody else with? And if you're willing to pay for it, someone else is willing to pay for it. Okay. And then I kind of have a bonus one, because I'm very in tune with words. I could get you on a enrollment call. Maybe it's you doing it with me as a practice. And there'll be words that you're using that are minimizing your value and your worth. They're projecting your insecurity or your anxiousness or maybe even your desperation. And it has nothing to do with that you're not skilled, talented, and capable of helping that person, but words matter. How we talk to ourselves is projected out in the conversations that we're having with other people, whether that's verbal, written, body language, eyes, whatever the case might be. Okay. So you also, and when we get into the 5 Ps, which we're moving into, you want to be sure that you're also considering what words you're using. So you don't want to use things like I can't, or I don't know, or that, maybe, or, you don't want to words that are going to minimize or diminish the fact that you're the authority, you're the leader, you're the expert, you're, the perfect person to help this individual. So whatever those words might be, and what I would always suggest to somebody is to, lay out your enrollment call process and your actual enrollment call structure, and get somebody to get on a call with you and go through an enrollment call and videotape it and audio tape it. And then listen to the audio and watch the video. Because again, we're going to be on a lot of videos, but at the same time, it's going to be the same person that, being you, that if you were in person with somebody. So, we could talk about that too another time, but there's a lot to say about words matter. Okay. All right. Everybody good? I do have water. Good. I've been talking all morning, as you can imagine. Okay. So the 5 Ps of enrollment call. Are you ready? Because this is the structure that can minimize that insecurity, that anxiousness, that stress, that doubt, uncertainty when it comes to you actually holding a very successful enrollment call. And the 5 Ps are this: plan, prepare, practice, present, and process. Okay, somebody can scribble that in the chat if you want. Plan, prepare, practice, present, and process. And I will guarantee you, stake in the ground. Oh, thank you, Christine. Stake in the ground. I will guarantee you that if you use this framework for structuring your enrollment call, it'll take a lot of anxiety off of you and a lot of insecurity away from you. Now, will this in itself get you over, the fact that the minute you have to ask for the money, you get nervous and whatnot? It may not do it 100%, but I can guarantee you it'll do it a big chunk of it, a big 80%. And what's just going to be left is those limiting beliefs that you have. And, I can certainly help you with that, in other in other venues and other programs. But plan, prepare, practice, present, and process. Okay. So in the planning, we're going to break it down into two things. You want to plan out your talking points, because now you're really starting to kind of minimize the insecurity and uncertainty. Like, oh my God, how do I do this? Planning, you know me, I'm big on planning. Plan takes a lot of anxiety, uncertainty. Like, what do I do now? How do I do it? It takes a lot of it away. So you want to plan your talking points. What is it you want to be sure that you're not only getting from that person, but you're also making sure that you're mentioning and you're bringing up during the entire enrollment call. So it could be the fact that a talking point is going to be around their struggles, pains, desires, wants, and needs. Okay, that's a talking point. You want to make sure that when you go and look at or even develop, let alone if you have one and you want to go revise it, you want to make sure the list of questions, which I recommend everyone have an enrollment call questionnaire, have a template. You print it out for every one enrollment call that you have, and you kind of follow the enrollment call flow that you have for yourself, and you just use it to fill in the blanks. Okay, don't start it every time you do it. And trust me when I say people do. They all of a sudden like have an enrollment call scheduled. Oh, I got to sit down and work out the questions. Like, why would you do that? So you want to really understand. So a talking point's going to be around their struggles. Okay. It's going to be around, kind of what is it worth, or I'm sorry, what is the impact that these struggles are having on their life? Personally, professionally, financially, spiritually, all of it. Make sure you lay out all of it. And then you want to get to kind of what is it worth to them to take care of this issue. Okay. Now, even that question gets a lot of people like, oh, now I'm selling. No, you're not. No, you're just simply asking them, if you were to solve this tomorrow, what would that be worth to you? If you were to get that advancement, what would that be worth to you? If you were to get, that relationship, what would that be worth to you? Now, is that giving you data around then positioning your ask? Absolutely. Because if someone says priceless, if someone says that advancement would give me an extra $50,000, or that relationship would, bring joy and happiness and safety and security, well, it's providing you a lot of data for when you go to ask. Okay. And then you insert that information, you repeat it and insert it in your closing or your asking. You definitely want to kind of be planning out your talking points around, what have they done in the past to solve this problem? Obviously, this problem isn't just like from yesterday. So what have they tried already? What's worked? What hasn't worked? How much did they invest in what they've tried so far? Okay. So talking points, all these are talking points. And then you definitely want to, plan out your talking points around your ask. What is it you want to convey even before you make the ask? What is it you want to convey about what it is, you do that, you can solve their problem? What is it about that you really want to make sure you get across to them? Because trust me when I say, people get off a call all the time and go, oh, I forgot to mention X. Oh, I forgot to mention this. So that's the point of planning. Okay. So those are just very few, just so I didn't totally inundate you. A few must go, catch you on replay. Thanks, Kate. So those are things that, there's tons of talking points you want to ensure are on your questionnaire. This isn't your questionnaire, by the way. I should say that. This isn't your questionnaire. This is a list of talking points. You're sitting back and going, okay, so what would I want somebody to understand about me and what I do, and what do I need to know about them? And then that is what you use to then craft your questionnaire. Okay, for your enrollment call. Don't start with, I'm going to make a list of questions. Again, it's really important the order of which you do things, because you're just making life difficult and trying to force a round peg in a square hole when you do things in a backwards order. Just sit back and go, what do I want to convey during this conversation? And lay it all out, and then work in all of those talking points to your questionnaire. Okay. All right. Now I want to kind of break down a typical flow and time lots that you should be using in your enrollment call. Let me get comfortable here. Okay. So you can look at, and you can even schedule your calls to be an hour. And now some people do these things in a half hour. Some will do them in 45 minutes. Some do it in 90 minutes. And I've been on some that have gone for 2 hours. Okay. So I would start with the baseline. When you set expectations with the other party, I would start with the expectation that it's an hour, but you might even asterisk on your Calendly or something like that. Time may fluctuate based on our discussion or something to that effect. But more importantly, what you want to do is when you get on the call, and we'll talk about that. Well, actually, maybe not. So let me touch on it. So, you definitely want to set expectations, because this is all about facilitation of that call. You have to be, ensuring that you have the structure of your call in such a way that you're leading it and facilitating it, and it's not going to go off, off the road. So at the beginning of the call, you definitely want to, hi, how are you, social, but then somewhere in there, you have to set expectations. We planned this call for an hour. And at about 10, and does that timeline work for you still? Yes, it does. Do I have permission that if we need it more time, I'll ask, about 10 minutes beforehand, and we can extend? Would that work? Yes, it will. Now they might say, no, I have another meeting at the hour, but then they get into the meeting. And the key point for coming back to that question of, we're about 10 minutes out, and we still have some things to discuss based on what you're sharing. Are you, able to stay another 5 or 10 minutes? And then all of a sudden, because they're in it and they're just, getting what they need, they might say, yes, absolutely, let's continue. And then if not, and they say, oh gosh, no, I have a, blah, 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 blah. Then you're like, okay, so when can we schedule a follow-up? And you get it right then and there. You get it right then and there. Do not leave that call until you've committed to the next step. That's a whole other conversation we could be having. But that's what I'll leave you with right now. Okay, so this is the breakdown of your call. It's going to go 5 minutes, 30 minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 10 minutes. Okay, so you just need to scribble those out first. 5, 30, 5, 30, 5, 10, and 10. Okay. And so the first 5 minutes is just introductions, talking, social, how are you? What's the weather like? Get to know each other. And keep an eye on your clock. All right. Keep an eye on your clock. Then 30 minutes is all about them. Dig, 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 and dig into learning as much about them as possible. So then you can get to the point of seeing that there's a fit, that you can solve their problem, and that you'll work your way into the ask. Okay. So 30 minutes, discover, 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 dig, 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 and dig. 5 minutes you want to use because you're taking notes, right? And I don't, you might mind map, you might do, do a number of things. But I would expect, as a coach or a consultant, you are pulling out pieces or circling them or highlighting them or doing something of the big talking points that you then, in this 5 minute slot, are going to summarize and show them that you've heard, you understand, you want to, maybe confirm some things, so we'll get to that in a second. But, so you want to spend 5 minutes summarizing anything that's needed, anything that was really kind of pulled out. Especially you want to be summarizing those things that you've identified as fit to what it is that you can offer them. You're still not talking about you yet. It's just summarizing what you've heard from them. So they're sitting there going, wow, she really heard me. She's really paying attention. She's really kind of, filling in the gap. She's really, digging into what it is that I just shared for the last 30 minutes. Okay. So then and in that 5 minutes, you definitely want to fill in any blanks. But again, watch the time. You want to fill in any blanks, because then you want to spend the next 10 minutes kind of saying, all right, so based on what I heard and the problems that you're having, or the opportunities, needs, wants, desires that you have, is it okay? You can ask permission. Coaching is about asking permission. Is it okay if I walk you through exactly my approach and what I've done with my clients and how I've solved this problem for others and how I could potentially help you? And rarely will anybody say no. Okay. Because they know they got on this call. They know it's a sales call. They know. So don't be stressed out about it. They have an expectation. They already know. And, so excuse me, got an itch. So take time. And again, this is in your planning. So take time and your talking points and your questionnaire, but take time to kind of go through for 10 minutes, your approach, your style, your process, your framework, whatever, your client experiences, the results you've gotten for other people, so forth and so on. Okay. Now they might ask questions in that 10 minutes. So again, watch the time. But by this point though, because remember, we're on a 60-minute clock here. And, but in this time slot, you could be even asking, so would you have more time beyond the 60? Because I sense we're going to go over. You could be asking at this point as well about the time. Okay. So you want to make sure that, that you kind of discuss that in the 10 minutes. The end of that 10 minutes going into the last 10 minutes, at the end of that 10 minutes going into the last 10 minutes is when you want to say, or when you want to present your offer. You've talked about your approach. You've talked about your client experiences. You've talked about results and values. And, now you're leading into, and I do all of this through my 3-month Discover You immersion coaching program, which is all about what we just talked about in regards to one-on-one, very small group coaching, training, a Facebook post, blah, 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 blah. And, and I offer that to my clients, and I'm only accepting 8 clients right now. And if I could share, I also have some specials that I'm running for the month of July. Okay. So you kind of get to, I don't know why that's going off. You kind of get to, the point of the offer. I'm just making sure. Okay. All right. And then, then you're going to say, how does that sound? So the last 10 minutes is you making the ask. How does that? Okay, good. Thanks, Chris. She's been helping me with, some weird technical Zoom issues the last couple of days. Thank you very much for that. So the last 10 minutes, you're going to get into, kind of confirming the offer and asking, is this something that you feel that, based on what you've talked about, that you would be able to have your problem solved by being part of this program, by being part of my mastermind group or my one-on-one coaching program. And and they're gonna start hemming and hawing. So are you, maybe. And this is going to be where the first question they're going to be asked, and I was just asked this the other day, immediately, because I'll also say, so what questions do you have? Now that I presented my approach, my framework, my program, the offer, not necessarily price yet, but the offer, that's up to you, but the offer. And then, how does that sound? Is that something that you think that would be beneficial and really, help you to minimize, to, get rid of the problem that you're having? They are, the first question someone could ask is, okay, so how much? So let's talk about the money. Don't back away from it. Don't back away from it. You know it. you could get a no, and you know it. Oh, I missed something, but I'll mention it. So all of a sudden, you just share with them that it is, that it's X, Y, and Z, and in this place is where you're going to be handling objections. Okay, but I don't want to get into all that because we need to move on. But that's how you're going to break down, and now we're going to talk about even that a little bit deeper. But that's how you're going to break down 5, 35, 10, 10. So in your preparation, which is also going to give you the confidence and the certainty that you're doing what you need to be doing, is you're going to want to, do research on this individual. So you know that Joanne booked an appointment with you. You need to do your homework in the prepare. So we're moving on to the P, the prepare. You need to do your homework. You need to go out to LinkedIn, to Facebook. You need to learn as much as you can about this individual, about their business, about where you might find that they must be having problems because you're seeing certain things. But a lot of cases, when it comes to coaching, you're not necessarily going to see it in their website. Consulting, you can, but from a coaching perspective, because a lot of it is mindset, and a lot of it is kind of masked. That if they're having, in my case, if they're having problems getting clients, you're not going to see that on a website. Okay, you're only going to get that from talking to the person. Whereas consulting, I can certainly see what people's business problems are on their websites. Okay, so I'm going to check in with you guys because once again, we have a lot to cover, and I am sitting at about 4 minutes to 1. So do you have 10 minutes to go beyond this time? Because I'm going to actually continue. So at least if you have to drop, I'm going to make sure this is complete and you can watch the replay. Okay, Chris is good with it. Angela's good with it. All right. So do that research. Okay. Look at the business that they have. Look at the presence that they have in their social media. Look at their conversations. What are they asking? Like, look for them in groups, and you should know how to like search for particular people within a group or within a page. And then it'll bring up all their posts, and you can actually check, are they asking questions or having challenges, and they're sharing these on social media in any way, shape, or form. Okay, so do research. As I mentioned, use a standard set of questions. Okay, so get that questionnaire for your enrollment calls laid out. Now, you might customize them based on who it is you're going to be talking to. You might add a question, take out a question, whatever the case might be, but have a standard, enrollment call questionnaire. Do not do it over and over and over again. You absolutely, if you want to minimize your stress and anxiety and a little bit of insecurity and uncertainty, you definitely want to think through and put on a piece of paper. This is a bonus. Put it on a piece of paper, all the objections on the left side that you could get about doing work with you, all of them, not just price, all of them. And then on the right hand side, how are you going to handle them? What are you going to say in response to their objection? Because that'll take away, 99% of your anxiety is when all of a sudden people are like, well, I don't have the money. Well, I have to talk to my partner. Well, I don't have the time. Well, I had somebody just a couple weeks ago, I'm not crazy about accountability. So think through every objection you could be getting about the work that you do and come up with an answer, a response to it. Now you're in prepare. What you want to do is you want to answer those objections in the enrollment call before they're asked. Make sense? You want to handle those objections before they're even asked. And so there is a way for you to build in to your questionnaire questions that will allow you to make comments to handle the objections before they're even asked. Because then by the end of your call, when you're going to typically get the objections, they're not going to be able to because you've answered all their questions. Make sense? Okay. So we talked about the time, the time lots. And seriously, make sure you block out those times. make sure you're following them on your clock, wherever that might be. You put up your phone against your, computer, which is what I need to be doing, or you look up in the right hand corner of your computer, whatever. But definitely make sure you don't run out of time before you get to your ask. Um, create multiple ways. Oh, create multiple ways where you can lead up and make the ask. And what that simply means is you don't want to be selling early on, but it doesn't mean that in your descriptions of the work you've done with your clients, you're not demonstrating, what you do and how you do it. Okay. Or you're able to, in those sections too, demonstrate your style, demonstrate your personality, getting down to that fit. Okay. So there's a lot of different ways where you can lead into when all of a sudden your ask is natural. It's kind of like, so I do all of this within my 3-month Discover You immersion, which, I pretty much laid out already. Again, just to, kind of summarize, it's a 3-month one-to-one, along with very small group coaching. And then I have weekly trainings, a private Facebook group, 911 calls. And I go into, you would go into those a little bit deeper. And it's all for $3,997 for the 3 months. But right now, until the end of July, I'm actually giving 6 months for the same price as the 3 months. And do you think that that would help you with that one-on-one coaching, with that group coaching, with that training, with that resource, with all that support? Would you be able to solve your problem or get your want, need, or desire through that program? And you had mentioned that it would be worth tens of thousands if you were to be able to X, Y, and Z. How does that sound? What questions do you have? Are there any concerns? I mean, you could be, asking all of that, to them, as opposed to even waiting for them to hem a haul and possibly just kind of totally tune out. Okay. So you definitely want to work through all the different ways you could get to your ask, and then you can, all the different ways you can actually ask. Okay. Practice, 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 and practice. I happen to take a lot of improv and stand-up comedy and acting classes and whatnot. And it's certainly where I learned this idea. And I play pickleball, and I certainly learned, just the need to just practice, 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 and practice. Now, that said, to some of you, that said, do not use practicing as a reason to not just go and do it. Because even you could practice, 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 and you're still going to be nervous or anxious on that first or second call. And, you're going to feel as if, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. And oh my God, I don't want to ask and get rejected. You're still going to, have that stage fright, no matter how much you practice. So don't use it as, as an excuse or a reason to delay. Okay. You can ask a friend. That's the first one under practice. You can ask a friend, a peer, a colleague. You can ask Facebook group members. You could say, hey, I'm looking to practice my enrollment call process. Who would be available for an hour Tuesday at noon? Get people to help you and support you. Okay. And run through it as many times as you can. And find people that will, like literally take it seriously when it comes to them being the client. I forget who I did this with recently. I think it was Marina. And I challenged her, and I played the, unsure, I have to talk to my partner. I need to, I don't have any money, so get somebody into character, to help you walk through that. And that is part of what I even do in my Discover You immersion program is I run through and spend a lot of time ensuring that my clients are very comfortable, going in and doing what they need to be doing. But again, they can expect that they're going to be nervous, but at least if they are practicing and running through it multiple times and working through the kinks and just feeling more comfortable in their skin, they get more and more comfortable. Now, I want to highlight something before we move on. I'm modeling to you how you could be working in your enrollment call a natural ask. Has anybody picked up on that? Has anybody picked up on that I've mentioned my Discover You Immersion coaching program very casually? Has it been selling? Have I been a used car salesman? Has it? And tell me truthfully. I mean, be truthful. Has it been, or has it been just natural and part of the conversation? And you won't offend me if you say, no, you're talking about it too much. No, you are explaining about it. So, and that's the part of working through, the multiple ways you could be doing your ask. Okay. All right. So now you get to presenting. This is it. You're on the call. Oh my God. But guess what? You have everything right in front of you. You've planned and you've prepared and you've practiced. Okay. And now it's just a matter of having the call. Agree. It's like part of the conversation as an example. Yes, exactly. Angela, no, you used it as part of the conversation and examples. And that's what you're going to do. And that's what you can do. And so, you don't need to be afraid that you're going to come off as a used car salesman or you're going to appear pushy or anything like that. Okay. So in your presenting, you're presenting to your prospect on your enrollment call. This is your time to present. This is your opportunity. This is what they want. This is what they need. They're in pain or they have a desire that they want fulfilled. And are you that person for them? That's what they're thinking. Okay. So make sure you recognize that this is your time. That's the first point. This is your opportunity to present to them how you can help them. We talked about it, so I won't belabor it. Let go of it. The goal of getting a sale. Let go of it. Just serve. Just let go of getting a sale and just serve. Okay, that's the second point. And again, this is a discovery call. Okay, this is, the sub bullet to this being a discovery call. It's focused on learning about them and seeing if you can help them. It's, it's you managing the conversation. Now, this is going to be important because it could go off into left field. Like this person could all of a sudden start talking, and they're talking about their, kids and the dog and their parents and their travels. And you're like, okay, so let's bring it back to what is it, what is the reason why you felt it was important for us to talk today? So you really need to become a good facilitator. Okay. Another day we'll talk about all that. So the second sub bullet is you need to manage their time. Remember, this is not a coaching call. That's a third bullet. And it's a third reminder. This is not a coaching call. All right. So then the next main bullet is all around have a timer on your phone, have a timer on your desk. We talked about that. I talked about 10 minutes prior, ask if it's okay to go over, just like I did, although it wasn't 10 minutes before. Handle those objectives up front, handle objections up front. The sub bullet is confirm their agreement or understanding. Now, what this really means is in that latter part of you're confirming your understanding with them. But then when you're getting into your framework and your approach and your style and your program, even before you ask, you then just say, does that make sense to you? Or do you have any questions in regards to all of that? And get, a confirmation that they understand. Then you can say, well, so how does it sound like? Because we could talk about the investment, always investment. It's not a cost, it's not an expense, it's not a budget. It's an investment. So now, I can share with you the investment for participating in this program or this offer. So just confirm their agreement and understanding of what it is that you're talking about, even how much it costs. And then you can move into asking if, is this something that you would like to take advantage of today? Okay. Make the ask. and then be quiet. This is the biggest sales tip that you'll hear in corporate and entrepreneurs and anything. You ask and then you shut up. Okay. Now, of course, that ask was a little long, or even not even the ask. The description of the offer was a little long. You're talking about your approach, your program, blah, blah, blah. But then you say, you even mentioned the investment, and you then ask, would you like to get started? When would you like to get started? Is there a particular date, a weekly date for our one-on-ones that would fit your schedule? Are you, prepared to make the investment today? You make the ask and then you go, oh my gosh, and then you go quiet. Okay. That's key. It's critical. Don't don't go and talk yourself out of the sale. And a lot of people do. They start talking, explaining further, and then the other person's getting anxious. The other person's not getting some airtime to think. So give them airtime to think. Put this really big on your notes. Make the ask and then shut up. I said, make the ask and then be quiet. That's a nicer way to say it. But you got the point. Make the ask and then go quiet. Let it sit. It will be uncomfortable, but let it sit. And then you could say, what questions do you have? Not what concerns do you have? What questions do you have? And this is where the objections are going to come. So then you just are handling the objections. You could eventually say, what concerns do you have? What is preventing you from making the investment today based on wanting to solve this problem? And they'll bring up the husband or the partner or the money or the time, and you have an answer to all of it because you've planned and prepared and practiced it. Okay. And you're definitely going to handle objections at this point. Even though you think you handled all of them in your planning and preparing and practicing, you're still going to have objections come up. They might not have caught them. They might not have heard them. They might not have been paying attention, but you're going to have objections come up, so you can still address them here. Okay. Now, remember that even if they're kind of final and they're like, well, this isn't the right time. After you've tried to explain, when would be a good time? And, when would be a time for us to follow up with each other? When do you think things will change? When do you think your calendar will open up? I'd like to follow up with you. When would a good time be to do that? Well, I don't have the money. What now? I am not, and I'm going to take time to explain this. I am not a fan of what many coaches do. And that is, well, there are resources and loans, and you could ask your family member or a friend to borrow the money. I am not a fan of that. I am not a fan of someone going broke or going into debt to somebody or something in order to get their business. So I would ask you not to do it. You do what you can to understand their financial situation if it is about money. And you ask them, is this really about money? Is it really about money? Let's talk about that. Is it really about the money? Because based on what you said about how much it's worth or where you've spent money before, it doesn't really sound like it might be about money. But I would, ask you to kind of stop. I would stop at the point of kind of, having them go in debt in order to work with you. Okay. Now, if you've done everything that you can, remember, it's not a no about you. It's just not the right time. It might not even be the right fit, but it's not about you. So don't take it personally, just move on. But you're not moving on, okay? Because you can say to them and stop and ensure that you don't get off that phone until you say, what's a good day and time that we can follow up? And, I just want to follow up and see if, things have changed or if there's anything more I can, share with you. When's a good day and time? Let's put something on the schedule now so we can make sure that we follow through on this. How does that sound? Okay. And so you just get something on the schedule. You don't walk away without something being on the schedule. Oh, well, I'll get back to you. No, well, let's just take care of it right now. Now, you can get something on the schedule and they don't show up. But at the same time, you really want to, you're demonstrating too your style and your coaching in that you want to make sure that there's a commitment there. Okay. All right. And then lastly, process. Process is all about processing everything that went on, but it takes Coco wants to join in on the conversation, but it takes two parts to it. One is assessing and processing, and one is doing the follow-up. And you absolutely want to be sure that you have a system in place that you are following up, not just on that call that we just talked about, but that you're also, kind of putting them in the system to be receiving certain emails that are going to, kind of touch base with where they are, or shared additional, client cases, or do, something more. Okay. So you want to get them into an automated flow of a follow-up, let alone you definitely want to be reaching out and getting them on another call, so you can further discuss it with them. Okay. So that's one part of your process. The other part of the process is really assessing what worked, what didn't work. What could I've done better? What did I really do well and I need to continue doing? Did I leave anything out of the process, or did I cover it all? Okay. So under process, it should, there's two core things, and that is looking at, what your presentation was like, and your whole, like, actual plan, prepare, practice presenting, and now the process. And so you just want to look at things like, your overall presentation, looking over your, what worked, what didn't work, identify areas to improve on, and making note of specific next steps that you want to take with this individual. Okay. And then the second main bullet would be make any adjustments for your next call. Because again, we can all improve on what it is that we're doing from one call to the next call. So break process actually down into two: one for follow-up, making sure that you're following up. And trust me when I say this is when a lot of coaches fall flat. They have this great call, and because they got what they're perceiving as a no, which is not a no, they then kind of go, they are like, well, I don't want to be pressuring them, and I don't want to, force them. And so they don't do any follow-up. And the next thing you know, they've given up an opportunity, because maybe they did need time. Maybe they did need to talk to their husband or partner. Maybe they did need to kind of put together money. And yet a lot of them will just stop. Don't stop. Have a process in place that you've defined as to what you're going to do as a follow-up. And then definitely assess how it worked, how it didn't work, what areas you can improve on, what you need to do as next steps for the next time. Okay. All right. Anyone have any questions? This is what I want you to do as a next step in regards to today's particular discussion. I would really like you to go out. It's on the Shift to Riches Today page. It'll already be posted. And I put a post for you to really kind of be very upfront and honest about what the one challenge is that you deal with when it comes to enrollment calls. Let me provide you coaching and advice and next steps that other people can see as well. And trust me when I say you're not alone. Other people are dealing with the same challenges you are. So go out to our Shift to Riches Today page and post your number one challenge with enrollment calls. Because if we didn't discuss it here, then I want to make sure that I get you some advice and some tips. Okay. And then the other thing would be, and I wasn't able to put it down here, it was on my last one. The other thing would be that if you do need help, let me just get this in here. If you do need help in any of these areas, and you want to, hear and learn more about what it is that I do and my Discover You immersion. And I am actually putting this Get Clients Accelerator, I'm putting this into a one-to-one and small group coaching program as well. So if you'd like to learn about either one of those programs and to see what what we could do together to really help you with the problem that you're having in whatever area of your business that you're dealing with, then definitely schedule a call that we can simply talk through. You can share with me what it is that you're doing, and we can definitely decide, kind of what would be a great solution for you, whether it's me or another, avenue to take. So you can go to tiny.cc/ breakthrough coaching call and schedule time with me. Okay. And I would love to be able to help and support you. All right. Well, that was our Get Clients Accelerator Challenge. You are so welcome, Christine. And I would love, love, love your feedback. You can send it to me, one-on-one, DM it, and or even testimonial in regards to what you've gained over the last few days, what you've learned, what you're going to start implementing. And let's just keep the conversation going. And I just will always look forward to supporting you as you kind of move forward on your own journey of your own business. So we can all create riches in our work and our life. All right. So until I see you next time and right out at our Powerhouse Mavericks group, if you're not a member, look for it on Facebook. It is a great, awesome group of men and women, believe it or not. There are a few men out there who are just working together to really become the powerhouse Mavericks that we all deserve to be. Okay. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.